Hello everyone, hope you all are well. I am Deep Mentor. Welcome back to my Python tutorial series. In the last tutorial, we covered variables and basic data types. In this tutorial, I will introduce you to lists. To understand the list data type better, let me book flight to Vegas with my fictional friends. I will try to finalize list of friends with whom I will be going and order in which they will be sitting in the flight. We will perform different operations on the list to explain things you can do with the list. To initialize a list, you use square brackets. These square brackets tell Python interpreter that the variable is a list type. To start with, I have 4 friends in mind: Vladimir, Rishi, Justin and Narendra. So let me create flight tickets list and initialize it with names for me and my 4 friends. The position in the list will tell who will sit next to whom in the flight. For accessing individual elements in a list, you need to provide the index of the element in the square brackets as shown. Keep in mind that the index in Python, like most of other languages, start with 0 instead of 1. So for accessing first element, you have to provide 0 as index. Python also supports negative index for accessing list items. Index -1 represent last element of the list. Similarly, -2 represent second last, -3 third last, and so on. Please ensure that the index you provide is in sync with the size of the list. If you provide index which is more than list size, you will get an index error. Same applies to negative index as well. Later during the day, I realized that I forgot to add 2 of my old friends, Donald and Jingping, to the tickets list. To add Donald to the tickets list, I will use a method called append. What append does is it adds an item to the end of the list. In fact, you can start with empty list and then keep appending new elements to it, and it would work fine. In example demo, you can see we started with an empty fruits list and then added different fruits to the list. This is quite handy, as in real world programming, you generally start with empty list and then as program runs based on input or actions, the list grows in size. Now for adding Jingping, as Jingping and Vladimir are friends, so I decided to insert him at the second position next to Vladimir in the list instead of appending to the end. Insert method inserts an item to the list and moves all the item from that position till the end, one index ahead. As you can see, index for second position is 1, so we'll add Jingping to first index. Everything looked great, but Donald called to inform me that he won't be able to join this time due to some health issues. With Donald not coming to the trip, thought to take Joe to the trip. Joe is another good friend of mine, but Donald and Joe don't go along that well. So in initial list, I avoided calling both. To assign Joe Donald's place, I just need to assign Donald's index to Joe. As this is list of string items, you can call string methods on individual list items. You can also use fstring on individual list items. Narendra decided to back out because of some personal reasons, so I had to delete him from the list. For deleting an element, you have couple of options. I will delete Narendra using del statement. Del statement can be used to delete an element at particular index. Just few days before the party, I had an argument with Justin. I was not aware what's his index on the list, so decided to use remove method instead of del statement to remove him from the list. Remove method just searches for the first occurrence of provided value and removes it from the list. To demonstrate the same, I will add Justin again to the list. You can also see here that lists support duplicate items. When we executed the remove command, it removed just the first Justin. Let's remove the second Justin as well. I finally checked my finances and realized I was too optimistic with my budget and decided we'll have to remove few more people. Pop method is used for deleting last item from a list. You can also provide an index and pop particular item. Pop has a benefit that you get hold of the item that was deleted. First, I will use pop without providing any index. That is, it will delete the last element. Let me now pop element at the second position, that is first index. Before moving further, let's try to understand difference between Python functions and methods. In Python, functions and methods have similar purpose, but differ in the way they exist. Functions are independent blocks of code that can be called from anywhere, while methods are tied to objects or classes and need an object or class instance to be invoked. Classes and objects will be clear in later tutorials, so don't worry if that doesn't make sense as of now. Some examples of functions are print function we have been using so far and sorted function we will be seeing next. And examples of methods are title method, lower method and upper method. If you recall, we used message.title method for calling the title method. That is variable followed by dot followed by method name and then parenthesis. This means methods exist only as long as variable exists, while the function exists independently, like print function is not dependent on any variable. Methods will be more clear once we start looking into classes and objects. Let's now look into sorting of a list. At times you might just need sorted output and not sort list permanently. In that scenario, sorted function will be useful. It just provides a sorted output and doesn't sort the list permanently. You can of course store output of sorted function into different variable if you like. However, if you want to sort list permanently, you should use sort method. Please note here sort is a method and not a function, and to call it we need a list variable. The sort and sorted method will sort the list alphabetically. Before we move forward, let me introduce you to another data type called Boolean. Boolean data type can have two values, true and false. You don't use quotes while declaring the Boolean values. If you use double quotes or single quotes, it will end up being just another string. Boolean variables are quite useful in testing different logical conditions. Remember, these values are case sensitive and thus you need to take care while using these values. Now coming back to our flight tickets list, there might be cases you would want to sort the list alphabetically but in reverse order. You can pass a parameter reverse equals to true to the sort method to achieve the same. Reverse equals to true is also available within sorted function. Please note sort and sorted examples we saw so far had data items in same casing. That is title case for our example. But in case the items of the list are in different case, for example some in lower case and some in upper case, then sorting becomes little more complicated. We will cover those scenarios at some point in future tutorials. For now, feel free to play around with different casing and see how the sort output behaves. Before we conclude today's tutorial, would like to introduce you to another method which is available with list, that is reverse method. Reverse method just reverses the list of items you have. Note, it is not sorting the list but just reversing the index of the items as shown. Now let's see what is the final count of people left for the trip. For doing the same, let me introduce to another function called len function. Len function can be used to find out the length of a list. Unfortunately, Vladimir and Rishi also backed out at last moment and I had to cancel my trip. Maybe next time. But a very warm congratulations to you. You now know Python lists and have knowledge of different functions and methods that can help in working with the lists. In the next tutorial, we will dive deeper into Python lists and cover other important topics related to the lists. Please subscribe to the channel to get notifications for future tutorials. Thank you.